So we have everything playing according to plan, according to what we outlined in yesterday's show. But the question remains now, can you trust the pump, right? Is this just simply a dead cat bounce, which is going to get faded? Or are we going to see strong follow through? That's what we'll discuss in today's show. We'll also have a look at a bunch of the altcoins and see, what sort of bounces they're putting in. Is there any opportunities over there? Because I think I may have spotted one or two. Smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Very, very different picture over here if you are looking at the Banter Bubbles chart today. On the daily time frame, it's been a while. Right? This has been a couple of days since we've last seen something that looks quite like this. Pretty much most of the coins starting to put in bounces on the hourly, dailies. Almost everything is up over there. Weeklies, still a couple of coins down, but a lot of them in the top 100 have regained. Whereas if you look at the monthly, well, if it is still a bull market, probably shows that there is opportunity out there, right? So we've been heavily focused as on what's happening with the stock market and everything going around with in terms of the tariffs, the tariff wars and things like that. And we're starting to see the stock market consolidate near those highs. Now, there's nothing bearish about that, but the good news is that there is something slightly different that's taking place, and it's this, right? If you look at this tweet over here from 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗏, this is essentially showcasing how you start to shake off bad news. So he says price at the top, not reacting to the ETF filings, etc. That being the ETF filings for crypto, meaning prices, were starting to distribute at the tops over there. And he says now price is not reacting to the tariffs or negative news anymore, while many, not all things are at high time frame supports. So many are at high time frame supports, but not everything, right? And he says not a bad sign for a little bit of relief. And that's what we're starting to see within the market. So stock market shaking off any sort of tariff talks, whereas a couple of days ago, prices were coming down. And if you look at this previous high low that we had over here, the major high low, this drop that occurred over here was around the DeepSeek, right? At least AI technology coming out of China. And then you had the trade wars after that. And you can see now it's having less and less of an effect as prices continue to grind onwards and upwards. So overall, the stock market still looks pretty bullish, right? There's nothing bearish about this on the higher time frames. It's just a series of higher highs and high lows and continuation, and the trend is your friend till the end, and that's the name of the game. However, not all stocks are made equal. There are some that are coming down, which we did actually outline at the time, and I said it may not be a popular opinion or popular thought, but it was Tesla, right, where we said possible deviation of the highs over here, and that looks to essentially now be the case, right? We have the deviation. The deviation is in fact intact. Now, if you do get a spike up over here and it leads into a lower high, be very, very careful, because that then could be your complacency bounce. Now, I don't want to talk about the complacency bounce yet on Tesla because I don't think it's relevant. And just for what it's worth, I am bullish on Tesla for the long run. So I would see, any of this as a major opportunity, depending on where support is found, as an opportunity to probably stack a little bit of Tesla over here. Now, what I found interesting is looking at this chart over here in terms of when the MACD reached these very, very extreme levels where the MACD moving averages got into that 40 to 50 zone and then started to cross down. What we saw was a 38% correction. I think I missed it a bit. Let's just get it pinpointed. It's 40% correction. When you look at this one, same thing, crosses down over there. You got a 43% correction. You can have a look at this one over here. This one put in a 53% correction, which was much more sizable. And now, once again, you have the MACDs coming towards the downside over here, following the deviation of the trend. So if you're following purely price action trading and combining that with something like this, just as a little additional confluence using the MACD, well, if it did play out the 40% average move, that lines up exactly in alignment with our price action analysis, which would suggest that price should come into the middle of the fair value gap, and that would be just sub $300. And then at the very least, I would expect a bounce, right? You do expect a bounce out of that, especially if it comes into this very quick, right? Remember, time reinforces levels. We've spoken about that. So if you had a big move up and you come down very, very quickly, and a lot of time has passed since, a couple of weeks, right? A couple of months, and you hit that level, you'd expect at the very, very least, at least a little bit of a bounce, right? Then you can reevaluate, is it putting in a lower high? And if it does, then possibly it would bleed out further. And then there's no trade over there until such time as you do find some new strength. So just outlining, because I know that there is actually a big crossover between, the older generation that does watch the shows. Those, I know a lot of you guys are in Tesla, I know you like NVIDIA, Tesla, and have a little bit of a crossover into crypto. And therefore, I thought that would be a value add for you. So I'm looking at that. Now, let's get into Bitcoin. Let's get into crypto. Things are playing out pretty much exactly according to what we looked at yesterday, which was the TD9 sequential. And we said we're looking for anywhere between 1 to 4 candles towards the upside in a corrective bounce over here, right? And then we would have to reevaluate and look for any signs of weakness, specifically underneath the $101,460 level. If we do break through that, well, that's going to be a strong sign of strength, right? So if we look at that and then we combine that as well with what happened over here on the Bitcoin dominance, well, we saw a TD sequential 9 top over there, which means the same thing, a 1 to 4 candle correction, but in the other direction, which is a downward move, which means that altcoins will get a little bit of a bounce. And the same thing is true over here on the USDT dominance, right? So BTC dominance, USDT dominance, for the most part, have been moving in unison with each other. When those go down, altcoins go up. When those go up, altcoins go down. And Bitcoin either holds flat or dumps as well, right? So that's what we've been focusing on, and now it's starting to play out. Now, very, very quickly before we move on into the rest of the charts over here, what I personally would love to see from the Bitcoin bulls over here, because I would, of course, prefer for the market to continue to move towards the upside, because it's much easier to make money in an upward market than trying to short the market down, right? Just literally probabilistically, you are going to make more money that way. So what we would prefer to see is we'd prefer to see this rally straight through this level over here with, aggression and haste, right? And then you can put in a little bit of a pullback, and maybe you set in some sort of a high low around that $100,000 mark, and then potential continuation, right? If this does start to fade before that level, well, that could be quite troublesome, right? Because then you're putting in yet another lower high. And at that point, you have to start to question whether this major support is actually going to hold, where we've tested, I think it would be for the 8th or 9th time into that level, which is going to be your range lows. Therefore, a rejection and a weakness coming in before this, which is going to be incredibly interesting, because it is going to line up most likely going into Wednesday, which is high impact data, CPI data coming out. Jerome Powell, federal chairman, is going to be speaking as well. So it depends on his tonality. Is he going to be hawkish, dovish? What is he going to say? And if he does come out hawkish, you're putting in a lower high over here. Of course, it opens up the possibility that you could slam down, right? Now, there is going to be major supports below. The levels per se are around, 85,000, 83,000. And then you're talking about the CME gap all the way down at the bottom at 79,000. Now, I'm sure none of you want that to happen unless you're 100% in cash, because if that does happen, your altcoins are going to get absolutely obliterated, right? I don't think it's necessary to panic about yet, but you do want to, lock in. You want to sit forward in your chair, and you want to be hyper-focused over the next coming days, right? So just quickly touching on the USDT dominance, it would be really, really good to see a break below the resistance level over here, which is 4.33%, breaking back into that trading range. Therefore, considering that this was a major fake out, right? A big trap, a fake out towards the upside, shaking a lot of people out of their positions, break back inside, get underneath the 4.63, and that's where we have a behemoth run, right? Massive, massive run. Well, it's too soon to tell. Let's see. Theoretically, if this was any other chart, you would be watching for this to possibly hold the support. And if this does hold the support and bounce towards the upside, we're in big trouble. Point is that we have a lot of exciting things all lining up at very, very critical and key points, right? We're at a juncture for the market. It's a question of who takes over next. Bulls or bears? We spoke about the likeliness that leading into Wednesday, we were going to see the bulls take over and attempt to send prices higher, right? What it may mean is that you may continue to chop within a trading range, but at least they will have their attempt and they have a chance to stop price from breaking down, and then the pendulum will once again swing. In my experience, it swings every 2 weeks. You have bulls having their opportunity, and then the next 2 weeks you have bears having their opportunity to control price action. So this is the USDT dominance. Bulls, you want to see this. Bears, you obviously probably want to see this hold over here and price run up. I'm not really picking any sides yet. I've been cautiously bullish, and I'll continue to hold on to that until such time as Bitcoin breaks and holds underneath the range low. So that is your USDT dominance. And remember, just a quick reminder, we perfectly tested into the wick fill over there, the 50% level on the TD sequential 9 top. It was absolutely perfect. I couldn't have asked for a better situation. The only thing that I want to see now is a deeper follow through over the coming days. Maybe the CPI comes out really, really good for the market. Jerome Powell is as hawkish as a dove. And when we drop through this level, set in a lower high, and then, everything is back on and it's all hunky-dory. What we haven't seen yet, though, is Bitcoin dominance testing 50% of its wick. Now, it's not to say that it absolutely 100% has to. Sometimes we don't quite reach those 50% levels. Other times, we actually breach through the 50% level and you go as far as 75%. We need more information, right? Where does the Bitcoin dominance once again become very, very bearish? Well, you would have to wait for a break below this line over here, which would be your last high low on the daily time frame, coming in at 58.59%. If you do start to break below that, then things start to shift into the altcoins once again. And as you can imagine, this probably won't happen overnight, right? This could take some time before you get some sort of major distribution. So I guess don't count your chickens before they hatch. There is still going to be a lot of time that needs to pass. Altcoin season index has hit the lowest level since July 2023, which simply means the altcoins have been absolutely wrecked. Now, if it is still a bull market, which I firmly believe that it is, again, this can present some wonderful opportunities, but you really need to be selective on which sort of things you're dabbling in, because ultimately 99.9% of these altcoins are just bleeding to Bitcoin, as they always have. But I think this cycle's experience has probably been a lot more painful than the other cycles for many of the crypto natives. And the reason why is because at this point, following the halving cycle, by now, you would have already seen an altcoin season taking place, which you haven't, right? Only in select altcoins have things done well. Otherwise, for the most part, it's pretty much been smashed over there. So observe this. Remember, you can kind of treat it like an oscillator. Think of it like an RSI or stochastic RSI. You hit the bottom over here. If you do start to see signs of strength and it starts to put in little high highs and high lows, that could be a signal that the momentum is shifting, and then it's going to start to run back towards the upside. And when, of course, it hits the top side, you probably want to start to move back into Bitcoin. So we've seen full resets over here on the stochastic RSI, or the normal RSIs. If you look at the RSI heat map for all the altcoins, this is your weekly time frame. Everything dropped into the oversold category, and now it's just attempting to start to bounce. So again, treating this as an oscillator. If the bulls can shift momentum towards the upside, a lot of the altcoins have come back down to levels that many of you probably 4, 5, 6 weeks ago wished would come again. Now that they're here, you probably don't want to buy them because this is the nature and psychology of market participants. But at the end of the day, remind yourself 6 weeks ago, you were praying for these prices, and now you've got them. You've got the reset. The daily shows the same thing over there. Let's go into the 12-hour starting to move into neutral territory, 4 hours starting to move back into strong territory, and even some in the overbought, given, of course, the magnitude of the recent bounce, right? There's your hourly, all of those up heavily, and 15-minute also up heavily. That is using your RSI. Now, let's have a look at others measured against Bitcoin. This is your altcoin sector measured against Bitcoin. We have perfectly hit that trend line. At one stage, it looked like we weren't going to hit this, and the market was actually front running this level, but you've now hit it. Just because you've hit it doesn't mean that it's the best buy of your lifetime, because at the end of the day, there is always the possibility that if you set in a lower high over here, you could actually come all the way back down to the bottom over here, which would be the white line, and that is your range low. But until that happens, theoretically, you have a little bit of an invalidation zone to work with, which would be that wick low. And given that the majority of the market probably got flushed and liquidated, since it was an $8 to $10 billion liquidation event, the biggest that we've ever seen in nominal terms within crypto, chances are that you won't go back below that wick, right? Again, I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller. We need to play things as they come. But at the end of the day, if you consider the previous biggest nominal liquidation events that we've seen, which would have been FTX and, of course, the COVID pandemic, we never came below that wick ever again. So therefore, could you come and test close to this wick? Yes, you could in the future, but you're just standing with probabilities. The probabilities would suggest that this should hold, right? So it's hit that key level. Maybe, just maybe, you start to get a little bit of a reaction. It's when you look back in hindsight on the fundamental reasons for what drove all of these moves, it always makes sense after the fact. But if you were spending time, in that moment over here, and I don't think our replay function works on this, but if you were in that moment, probably nothing in the world would suggest that this was going to come next while prices were coming down to those levels. So we could be in a similar place, right? I guess it's just high time to pay attention. That's all that I'm saying. I'm not saying, ape into altcoins, right? Okay, there you have total 3 measured against Bitcoin as well. Still downtrending at the end of the day. You did have a bit of a break of structure theoretically. You still do have a higher low, right? You wick lower, but if you were to turn this onto a line chart and simply just focus on the closing candles, well, what do you have over here, right? You have your low, you have your break of structure in terms of creating your first higher high, and now you've come in and you potentially putting in a higher low, right? You can see it is clearly higher than the last one on a closing basis. So, those of you that are scared, simply just wait for a big price move like that, and I'm sure you'll probably get an entry backtesting with the 1, 2, third high low into that region. That's measuring altcoins against Bitcoin. Always chart your favorite altcoin against the actual Bitcoin chart when you are making those decisions. Okay, very, very quick look, just a high time frame view over here of total. Everything looks fine over there as long as it continues to consolidate within this box and we don't come back below that wick. All invalidations will be below that wick over there. Same thing on total 2. Backtesting into the neckline, that looks okay. Here we have total 3. Also coming back into the top of the range high breakout level. You don't want to go below the wick. Same story. And then you have others. Others got really obliterated over here. Again, that's why it did drop back down into this level over here. So this one's got a lot of work to do. If you're looking at the others chart, essentially need to get back above these breakdown levels, which I would say your safe zone is if you can get about 350 billion for the others, right? 350 billion, which start to show major signs of safety. So therefore, you're looking for something like this, right? Get back above there, and then you can say that was a major low. At the end of the day, strong invalidation below this, because at that point, if you lose that, you're probably taking this out, and then it's over, right? We're not yet seeing that, but something to keep an eye out on. Weekly, everything looks wonderful over here. There's no complaints, no problems. Everything looks fine. I also will mention that if bulls start to reclaim above these $100,000 levels, you're probably going to start to turn that stochastic RSI and the weekly back towards the upside as well. On tomorrow's show, we'll talk a little bit about the momentum and the volatility within the market and how we're also seeing signs over there that you might get the next big move. And we actually spoke about that before. We spoke about using the Bollinger Band with percentile and how oftentimes it will start to look like major expansion is about to take place for price to come back down one more time, recontract it, drop it below the 10 percentile mark, and then run it up. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just tune in tomorrow. I will explain it on that show. Okay, price above the yellow line, which is at 97,874. Simply put, that means your RSI and the daily is turning back up. And when we start to reclaim the white line, which is your 50% level, we spoke about this yesterday. This is where we've seen a lot of the prior traps, right? A lot of the prior bear traps where people flips people from bullish to bearish, shaking them out of the market, immediate reclaim over there and trend continuation towards the upside. You saw exactly the same thing happen over here. As you can see over there, drops below there, reclaims, price comes up, and again, where's your RSI? It's hanging around that 50% level. So as it currently stands, price is attempting to reclaim some key levels. We again said, 101,000 is a much safer zone to get above, so we'll make that nice and big. Let's make it red because it's important. If you get above that $101,000 level, you take out the last lower high in the dailies, and you would have reclaimed all your important moving averages. This is the 9 and 18 EMA, and tomorrow we will be printing the bull moon, right? Full moon, bull moon. Look outside, you'll see a big, bright moon. Usually that somehow brings optimism into the market, and that should bring a little bit of relief, right? So this has been the plan. We looked at this yesterday. Simply, this is what it looks like. Previously, we were hunting for a possible high low over here around the top of the mid-range, but you got flushed down. And I said, don't panic out yet. There's still a chance that you could put in a high low over here. We say that markets range about 70 to 80% of the time and trend for 20 to 30. And therefore, this is most likely still a choppy range, which means you have to take the lows and high lows with a grain of salt, because ranges would suggest that you revisit the bottom side of the trading range, right? So again, take it with a pinch of salt, but there is a possibility that this is the start of a trend with a high low intact over here. How do you confirm it? Well, you need to break out of the top of the trading range, holding above $105,000 and consolidating there to therefore create your first higher high, right? So you have a high, and now you're going to have a higher high looking, or a higher high hunt in the next coming days, and you want to see price holding above these levels. So that's what we're looking at. The importance again of getting above those previous daily highs over here, or lower highs at around that $102,000 region, simply means you also simultaneously reclaim the mid-range, right? And again, what are the probabilities? The probabilities are higher that this is a trading range than it is the start of a trend, because we range more than we trend, which means naturally the probability in markets is always higher that you are going to be in a trading range versus a trend. Let's quickly hit the pause button over there, and we'll continue. I just want to mention that if any of you don't know what I'm talking about, remember we are taking signups for Whale School, where I teach all of this stuff at length, right? So if you want to learn how to trade like a whale in just 10 days, there it is. There's a link in the description below. But first, you do need to sign up to one of these exchanges. That is your ticket in, right? So I can highly recommend as well 𝗬𝗥𝗬𝗕𝗏. The reason why is 𝗬𝗥𝗬𝗏 is one of the cheapest places on trading fees, and there's no KYC required, right? So if you sign up to 𝗬𝗥𝗬𝗏 using that link below, they will use the user ID. And when you come over here and you put your email in, click sign up, they're going to ask you for a user ID to verify that you're a human, right? And that you, because we don't want to have scammers coming into the course, which we sometimes do find. And this is one way to offset that, right? Is making them actually sign up to an exchange. So use it, don't use it. It's there for your use, right? Okay, let's continue. So once we get to the top side of the trading range, this is the trading plan over here. Then we'll reevaluate, right? As we reach up towards this $106,000, $107,000, I am still paying attention to the possibility, a very, very small possibility, that there could be a Wyckoff distribution. Now, Wyckoff distribution pattern would suggest that if price does spike up, into this $108,000, $112,000 region, break back under the trading range, similar to what Tesla's done, that's going to be a major bull trap, right? So we need to be aware of that. That is why it's super, super important. When price reclaims here, you're paying ample attention, massive attention to, can you hold this level? And if you can hold this level, things should be looking okay. Otherwise, there is a possibility that you slam back down, and then you could actually sweep everything coming back down to these low levels. Remember, there is a lot of fair value gaps or inefficiencies within the market. There's one over here, there's one over here. There's a lot of them which could theoretically be tested. They don't always have to be tested. For those of you that are on, crypto, Twitter, or X, you'll know the meme, are the gaps in the room with you today, right? Is that the psych ward? Are the gaps in the room with you today? It's the same thing, right? Fair value gaps. They don't always have to be filled. That's the important thing. But we do have high liquidity above head, over price over here at just under $100,000. So watch as price moves into that. Most likely it's going to move into this zone today, around $99,000. Let's double check where we're at. I mean, we're close. We're like $700 away. So as you hit that mid-range level, just see and observe on the low time frames what the reaction is into that zone. If you start to show signs of weakness and reject, that could just be a simple liquidity grab, and then maybe the move starts to fail. It's important to pay attention, because tomorrow we're going into CPI, and you would expect most people would probably, or short-term traders and speculators, probably want to de-risk into CPI. Now, there's a lot of good things that I'm looking at in the market, right? Other coins, one of which is 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗏. So, I definitely consolidated a sizable amount of my meme coin portfolio into 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗏, just because I think it's one of the safest plays. If the meme coin cycle does persist, you'd think that 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗏 is going to be one of the better ones. Of course, I still hold all of my Goku. You can see perfect retest into the major support over here. Look at that absolutely beautiful bounce over there. This has from low to high. Let's just quickly see over here. Actually, this has put in 126% move already. And this is common, right? You can see this. You can see this within the meme coin sector. Like, if we do start to put in a big bounce over here, and even if it were to set in a lower high for 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗏, that's still a 94% bounce from current price action. And if you were to take that from the low, you're talking about almost 160% move. But so far, this is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm viewing. A lot of the stochastic RSIs on a bunch of coins are looking like this, attempting to reset. Basically, if Bitcoin does actually start to get above those key zones, those key levels, around that $102,000 zone, most of your stochastic RSIs, even in the altcoin sector, are going to start to turn towards the upside. And I think you'll see, greed re-enter into the market. Now, although we meant to buy fear and sell greed, or I should rather say buy extreme fear and sell extreme greed. You have to understand that a lot of the trending moves actually occur in that period of extreme greed, right? Between greed and extreme greed. That's where you can see strong trending moves, similar to when you use the RSI, right? Or even the stochastic RSI. When it gets to the top over here, it's not always a straight sell, because sometimes it can just consolidate like this and prices can move up 500%, in that small consolidation. So that is food for thought. We're just thinking far ahead, but looking at this to possibly cross towards the upside over here and some relief to come back into the market. I will be paying attention on Pepe if we do get the big move up. At least this trend line over here that has marked the highs, I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to that. It's kind of like this expanding megaphone pattern over here, specifically on Pepe. All right, we can have a look at some of the other coins, one of which I spoke to the Whale Room members about over the course of the weekend. Remember, Whale Room is the private Discord for those who want to take their trading to the next level. We actually have a lot of traders in there who are making between $2,000 and $5,000 a day, not following me, but actually following some of the other traders like Farouk, who does short-term trades in and out on the daily. Nevertheless, I take more bigger swing trades, and this is one of the trades that I was looking at. You can see we came very, very close to getting stopped out over the course of the weekend. I said over here, as for hype, stops have been placed at the price label. This is when there was a lot of fear in the market over the weekend, and you can see how close we came, right? We came super close. All those wicks almost hit that price label over there, and hype is now moving up really, really nicely. So I will also still be careful over here, watching for any signs of weakness, at which point I may take a little bit of profit. For those of you in Whale Room, I will update you later on today as we do, watch for this to move towards the upside. You got your momentum oscillator. It is rising. We haven't reached the top yet on the 4 hour, but let's do keep an eye out on it, right? One of the reasons we need to keep an eye on these things is because we do have yesterday's reading for the daily exchange volume, which came down ever so slightly, right? So we want to see trend continuation. High highs and high lows. Right now we have higher lows, but we have lower highs, and we need something. The bulls need something. The bulls need some sort of a catalyst. I don't know what it's going to be. I know that, Rand spoke a little bit about catalyst in terms of liquidity coming into the market, and you have the FTX payouts that are also coming, but I don't think that's necessarily enough. But we need some sort of a catalyst to drive the volume up in order to get sustainability, because if you look on the yearly, I will remind you, every cycle we have taken out the price cycles volume, which makes sense, right? Because crypto is ever growing and ever expanding, and we expect that before an all-time high is put in, we should actually see the daily exchange volume surpass well beyond this $165 billion record, which was for 7-day volume on the exchanges, right? So ETH BTC, we are starting to put in a bit of a bounce. Still too early to say, this could be another month away before we start to get back above some of these key levels. So keep that in the back of your mind's eye as you do go about your trading. All right, what else? Let's have a look at some of these altcoins, right? Feel free to drop your altcoin requests as well. We can have a look on the weekly timeframes and just see, has the chart been broken? How does it look? Phantom is one to look at over here. Phantom has essentially swept all the way back down into these key lows. There are some major levels that it needs to reclaim. I would say 59 cents, 60 cents is a big level for this to get above. If it does, you'll start to see Phantom, now called Sonic though, so SUSDT. I'm just showing this for enough price issue, but if you get above 60 cents, your stochastic RSI will be beautifully turned towards the upside, right? That's the S chart, so I can't really show S, which is why we're looking at Phantom over here. Quick look at Casper, which got quite hit. Trying to break back into the trading range. If you can get above 13 cents on Casper, then you can say that was a massive bear trap, right? Shaking people out of their positions. But it's still going to take some time. Sui. Okay, Sui is putting in a big move over here. Full reset on the stochastic RSI as well. Perfect reclaim and hold of the golden pocket coming in at the 0.65 to 618. Again, get back above last week's high, the wick high at $3.90, and that will probably be a good sign. Okay, we can look at some of the memes. I see you guys are asking. Let's go to Brett USDT. I still hold my breath for anyone that is wondering. So there it is. Okay, Brett, Full reset over here as well. Similar to Casper, it got absolutely smashed. You do need to reclaim, not last week, but the week before's high, which is going to be 0.09 to at least give some glimmer of hope that this was actually a shakeout and you start to reclaim some key levels. Otherwise, watch for weakness around the 0.382 to 0.5, which is going to be 11 cents and 13 cents, right? Those are the two levels. Okay, WIF, how's WIF looking? Similar to Brett, right? Absolutely smashed. This is where you can see the difference between, some of these other memes compared to Pepe, which has been one of the top performers, meeting that trend line over there, confluence of the strong horizontal, reset on the stochastic RSI. And at the end of the day, it would be an early trade, to be jumping into this now. You can definitely wait for more confirmation of reversal, right? On a lot of these coins, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like this, right? Take out that high, and then it still could come full retest all the way back down towards the lows, put in a high-low, chop about a little bit, and then reaccumulate. I don't necessarily, on all of these coins, expect straight-up V-shaped recoveries. Okay, let's see. NEAR, yeah, sure. Let's have a look at NEAR. So NEAR, layer one, and also under the AI sector. I also saw on X that some of the mind share for AI has started to return again. So back to November levels for the AI mind share. Okay, let's clean this up a bit. Look, you're holding the range low, so that's important over there. Stochastic RSI is reset. So, anywhere around here, I guess, for longer term reaccumulation, that's what you'd be looking for. You want to see this level hold, right? You don't want to take out those previous lows that were coming in on the 22nd of January. That's probably where you want to see this reaccumulate and then hopefully move back up. Okay, hype. We've covered hype. Hype's done. Solana, yes. Let's go to Solana. Let's look at Solana on, actually, I want to look at Solana on this chart over here. Let's just go to our range levels. There it is. I'll also bring up hype on this chart over here. So, wait, why is it not showing over here? Let's just see quickly. It should be coming up. I guess it's just loading. Anyway, for Solana, look, okay, there it is. Big levels to reclaim. Firstly, the breakdown level over here. If you start to get above that, you can say you've deviated that. 220 is going to be a big zone to get above. And thereafter, I'd want to see it reclaim and hold above 238. So round it up, call it 240. We want to see it reclaim the previous month's mid. Just quickly giving you an idea of hype. This was essentially what I was looking at. Apologies for the range levels are taking a bit of time to load. So let's just let that come on. There we go. Let's go on the 4-hour time frame. Okay, there it is. So you're back above the yearly open. We want to see multiple candles here. I definitely wouldn't want to come below the previous month's mid-range again on hype, which therefore means if you did want a very tight invalidation, you could now raise your stops from what I have down here at like just under 20, under 22. I'd probably raise that up to about 23.16.5, right? 23.16.5, somewhere around there. So on hype, I want to see this, right? I want to see this hold, and then it must start moving, right? You want to take a move up into the previous month's high and then possibly break out above that. Quickly, I want to see where Pepe is. So Pepe holding that trend line over there. You can see that's a long-term trend line. Must reclaim the previous month's mid or previous month's low, and then you can start to target previous month's mid. Okay, cool. All right, Ethereum. Let's have a look at Ethereum. We'll see on this chart over here. Let's also have a look at Ethereum on this chart over here. Give me a second. So there we go. Ethereum is just looking a little bit weaker still than the rest, right? For example, when you look at where Bitcoin is following the dump, Bitcoin's still holding up over here. Even Solana is still holding up around here. But if you look at Ethereum, hanging around the lows, not even close to the breakdown point. So it shows that still even now, Ethereum is still weak. But at the end of the day, you've hit these levels over here. On some exchanges, you actually swept below these wicks, which means you've swept the liquidity. So that's done. You've swept the liquidity. Therefore, this wick low is your ultimate invalidation over there, specifically on ETH, right? All right, cool. What else, guys? Aether. Sure, we can have a look at Aether. Let's check out Aether. Here it is. ATH. Okay, weekly hammered, right? Weekly hammered. Maybe a little bit of a better look over here on the, let's just quickly go on to this time frame over here. There it is, Aether. Let's go on with the range levels. So you can see your range lows, right? This was your key range low. Let's just grab our tool set over here. There it is, major range low, right? I'd probably actually even rise this. So I'd want to see basically previous month's low. You need to get above that. For the most part, I think a lot of coins, and we should probably do this just out of interest. Let's go on to Bitcoin dominance. And let's go on the monthly, excuse me, not the monthly, the yearly. Firstly, let's turn all of everything off, and let's go on to the 12 months. Okay. So if we just have a look at that, I do just want to remind you what typically happens, right? Doesn't necessarily mean it always has to happen. 3 years of consolidation or 3 years of up, and then the fourth year drops, right? So you could just be putting on Bitcoin dominance the wick high. You know, this candle could easily start to turn red and continue the year towards the downside. It's just food for thought. Things can change very, very quickly within these markets. All right. Cool. What else? What else? Guys, just remember for Whale School as well, I just want to remind you, there is limited spots, right? So please use the link. Let's see what your votes are as well. Is the worst over? 43% of you say yes, 26 no. And the other 31% of you genuinely not sure, no idea, right? You have absolutely no idea. You know, I'll probably side with you. There's absolutely no way to possibly know. We need to just wait and play it by ear, wait for full confirmations. I do also want to just update you guys all on the 𝗕𝗫𝗖𝗘𝗏 launch, right? The 𝗕𝗫𝗖𝗏 launch went pretty well. You guys probably remember I mentioned this before. 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗏𝗧, this is the biggest gaming platform on Avalanche. There is a link below if you do want to check it out. If you want to participate, they have competitions that are up for grabs, $100,000 prize pools. And then remember to join their Telegram, right? Because there is a Telegram link below as well. That will be so that you can get access into, you know, all their various different games that they're offering, and you get freebies, right? There are some freebies where you can win extra tokens because you need the tokens to play, right? That's the point of their 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗏𝗧 token. That gives you access to play in all their games. Cool. Let's go. What else have we got? Okay, let's see. Mantra. Let's actually have a look at Mantra because I actually saw on the bubbles that I think on the daily Mantra, there you go, it's down slightly. So I thought that was interesting. Let's have a look at Mantra and we will take a look. Let's go on this time frame. Here it is, Mantra down 2%. So we spoke about a lot of people would probably be wanting to try and short this early. Now there's huge, massive inefficiencies in this, right? These are all absolutely enormous fair value gaps. Theoretically, I guess that one did get tagged. So, you know, maybe we can leave that one out. This one's yet to be tagged. So probably one to watch for over here. That's a smaller one. Let's just line it up nicely. There we go. Okay, so that's one that I'd be looking at as a major support if price did come back. And, you know, if I were to short this, because I know a lot of people are interested in doing that. If I were to short this, I would wait, right? I would wait for, you know, a tag of the fair value gap. So let's just pretend that this is the exact top. You know, if it came down, hit this, then set in the lower high, that's it. That's where I'd rather short it, right? And then you can look for the big breakdown. That's what a lot of people are asking. Maybe you who just asked in the comments, sorry, I forgot your name. Maybe you are super bullish on this. Well, rightfully so. This is very bullish, still strong. Very strong over here. Okay, Jasmy. Sure, let's have a look at Jasmy. I'm just looking on the high time frames, guys, because we've had such massive moves. You know, when there's less volatility in the market, we always look on the low time frames. But for now, there's just been such massive moves. We may as well look over here. Look, you know, could this sweep down into the low? That is the major low, right? So this is for Jasmy, 0.016. 0.016. I'd probably elevate this ever so slightly. You know, consider that the deviation back into the range. Stochastic RSIs are fully reset over here as well. Okay, Trump coin. We can have a look at Trump coin. You know, I always say that these things will bleed out at least 80% after a hyped launch. You know, generally speaking, my rule is that I look for in IPOs in traditional markets around 50% following the launch. Like Coinbase launch, very hyped. Of course, at least 50% down. You know, anything, Tesla launches, IPO, 50% down. You can look for that. It repeats most of the time. In crypto, it does 70 to 80%. So is it complete? Well, you did do 70%. You did 74.69. 80% down would take you to about $11 on Trump coin. So, what would I be doing with this? Let's have a look. We'll quickly, zoom in a little bit more. I think it's going to take long. My opinion is it's just going to bleed out. That's my opinion. But if we try and take a little bit of a more objective approach, then looking on the super low time frame, like the 4 hour, let's say that's your range low. So if you can start to break back above that, simultaneously reclaim 17, you break the last lower high, maybe that's a true range reclaim then at that point. So something like this, back test into here. If you are holding, you have your first high low, and then there's a trade opportunity. But again, my expectation is that it's probably just going to range, right? So it will probably find resistance. I think if it reclaims, that's if it even reclaims today, I don't see it running beyond 22. So 22 would be the range high. I think it would deviate, come back down, and then probably continue to bleed through. So that's something you definitely have to be aware of, right? Be very, very, very careful of that. Let's do a quick look at 𝗖𝗡𝗧𝗔𝗕𝗟𝗘, because I see that is one of the questions over there. Let's move back onto the daily time frame. 𝗖𝗡𝗧𝗔𝗕𝗍, I know a lot of people bought this coin that was very, very hyped, up 45%, right? So you are getting a huge bounce. But I know it doesn't really help much if you bought it over here, down 90%, which means you now need 900 to 1,000% to get back to break even, and you only did 110. So a lot of work to do. But if it can reclaim this is basically the range low, right? That's the range low. Reclaim it, and then maybe you have a chance to trade this like a trading range again, and then you can trade it to the top side. Okay. All right, so apologies if you are down on 𝗖𝗡𝗧𝗔𝗕𝗍. I actually was someone that mentioned, I think that the AI sector is overhyped and that we're putting in complacency bounces right over here, right? So euphoria, complacency bounce, and then you lead through the Wall Street cheat sheet. It was better seen on virtuals. We can go to virtuals as well. So there's virtuals. Let's have a look. You could see that complacency bounce beautifully over here. Look at that massive candle on the top, kind of a blow off top, comes down, right? Breaks structure completely, loses all these key levels, sets in the complacency bounce, breaks down. And that, therefore, I have to expect that it's probably going to continue to do this, right? A lot of these AI narratives, I think, dead cat bounce, and then continuation of the depression phase, and then you reaccumulate, and then maybe later you run it back. So Bitcoin looks good, though. It's not all bad news. Bitcoin looks very, very good still. Everything looks fine over there. Keeping an eye out on some of these large cap memes as well for huge dead cat bounces or even possibly full on reversals. Only time will tell. Remember to follow me on X as well. If you do want to keep up to date, there are my socials. We have X and even Instagram, right? Even Instagram is over there. If you do want to see what happens in the day, in the life, it is all over there. So that's it from me, folks. I'll see you all on the next one. I hope you have a lovely day. Jump into Whale Room if you're not already in Whale Room. We have a lot of top-notch traders over there, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day, and cheers for now.